Hello and welcome to Stylish Chats with Creatives. Today on the podcast, I'm speaking to Jen Gaughan. She's a graphic designer and owner of Studio 2711 and she's based in Preston. Hello.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. It's so nice to chat to you outside of Instagram.
I know. It's funny, isn't it, how you make them connections over Instagram? I do love it for that, even though everyone sort of still gives out a little bit about, algorithms and all that kind of thing. I still find it a really good place to meet and connect with people that you wouldn't do normally, would you?
No, and I think it's a great place for networking too with creatives because everybody's using Instagram as their portfolio, and it's really nice to see everyone's work and like their personalities shine through as well.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like a place where you can just be you, really. And there's still, I think if you don't put pressure on it and just have it as your own little space, then you're free to just do whatever you want and just, no pressure and you're good to go with it.
Yeah, I do think like chasing the algorithm and stuff, it's a full-time job, isn't it, being a social media manager? So I don't have time for it.
No, not at all.
So on your Instagram, I actually saw your designs and then I flicked through into your Studio 2711 shop and saw all your little crafty bits as well. So you sell like bookmarks and like stitching kits and lots of other bits.
Yes, I do. And that is really because I think when I was growing up, I've always been into, like my mum taught me how to knit and do cross stitching. And I think literally from the age of like 7 or 8, I've always done that kind of stuff. Always been into art, drawing. I'd just be copying like video covers. I'd just be drawing them, doodling them, and doing all kinds of stuff like that. So craft-based things is a big thing. And I found that in my spare time, like that's like kind of like my meditation in a way. And I know a lot of people find the same sort of relief from it as well, just by, just making your own thing, but you sort of zone out in a way. It's a really nice place to go where you're not thinking about anything else. And I kind of thought, well, especially because I do these latch up kits, you see, and they're like the cushion covers. And they're so dated. They're like a pair of golden retrievers or something, or Jesus is another speciality that seems to be quite popular. And they've just never been dated. So I thought, well, why don't we have a fried egg or like a big love heart thing that's a bit more bright and a bit more fun to do. And then so I made my own versions of those and then decided to turn them into kits, really, and then I sold those. And then as I do like my lettering illustration, I thought, well, why can't I turn that into a cross-stitch kit? So I decided to give that a go as well. It seems to be quite popular. People tend to like them. And what are the other things? Oh, yeah, obviously absolutely love reading. Like I've always got about 10 books on the go. And never enough bookmarks, hence why it's like, right, I need to do something here rather than just using little bits of receipts and stuff. It's like, right, well, let's just do something fun with it. And then I decided that magnetic ones would be cool. And then just got my little Cricut machine thing out and decided to make those and sell them. So, yeah, it's just a little bit of an extra thing on the side because obviously it's not my main job or anything, but it's a fun little way to make a bit of extra income and also spread a bit more. If I find joy in it, then I think other people would probably do the same as well.
Yeah, I love me a good cross-stitch kit as well. Yeah. I've just got one that says that I need to start actually, that says like, me and my dog talk shit about you.
Brilliant, love it.
So it can go up in the kitchen with all the other ones. I think I've got one that says like something about marriage and dating. I can't remember when dating goes too far or something.
Yeah, I have one of my friends who she's also like she's a freelance marketer, and we went to we've been working together for like 10 plus years, and we finally met last year, and we decided where we'd meet was the craft show in the NEC. We was like perfect place. We literally just spent the day going to all the different things, buying all the different cross stitch kits. It was like the ideal friend date ever.
It sounds incredible. I am going to go and look into that.
Yeah, it is brilliant. But you realise as well just how like I was saying, like how dated some stuff is, and you just think, why are we living in like the 1980s? There's obviously an opportunity for people to, create some new stuff. So people that want to do it, go ahead and do it, because I still think there's a lot of open space there for more creatives to get involved in creating, more up-to-date designs that people actually want to do, because you don't want like that thing to die out. Like, I'm sure it never would, but it needs to be brought to the 2024 type thing.
Yeah, and I don't know how many Jesuses I really want to cross stitch.
No, exactly. First one might be a bit of a novelty, but then after that, you're not really gonna want to do that.
No.
Or big sunflowers, golden retrievers, and some sort of religious thing. It seems to be the go-tos.
I think there's a lot of teddy bear cross stitch kits in mine shop.
Yes.
Yeah. It feels very like you say, like 80s, early 90s, like we've just been stagnant there.
Yeah, it's funny. I always get the little I think it's Stitcher, or I can't remember now, but there's a magazine that comes out, and I'm always really excited to receive it, thinking, oh, what's going to be in it? And then there's just nothing. There's nothing there. And I'm like, right, I need to make more cross-stitch kits, because we need to get more of this stuff out there that people might want to do.
Yeah, you should contact that magazine and be like, look, I've got some cool ideas.
Ideas.
Do it. So how did you become a graphic designer?
Well, like I was saying, I've always been into art. I think that's just something that's in the genes on both sides. Like my grandma was an art teacher, and my granddad on the other side, he loves painting and stuff like that. So like, I think there's obviously something in me that always wants to be drawing or doing some sort of art. But when I was in school, I actually wanted to be one of those special effects people. But, the old school ones, like on the show Casualty, like where an arm's torn off and like you've got blood coming out and everything. Really wanted to do that. And then it just never materialised. I had to go down the route of, right, where can you go to have a job that like will actually provide you some income? And then the route was obviously graphic design. So that's how I went down there. Did college and then went to uni, did that, and then from there got a job in like an agency in my like hometown. And then after a few years, that sort of they ended up shutting, and me and the creative director from there set up on our own. So it was just us two, and we did that for about 9 or 10 years, and then got to a point where that didn't work anymore. So I had to sort of make a decision whether to basically go and do a different job or decide to do it completely on my own. And I remember speaking to a client, and he basically just gave me that little nudge to say, you can do it, go and do it. Go and give it a try, because you're fully capable of doing it. Because you have that sort of like self-doubt in your head going like, oh, I don't know if I'll, will I be able to do it? Am I any good at this? It's like, yeah, you've been doing it 10 years. So you are fully capable. You've been doing a good job. But when it's like on your own, it's that complete, like you have a bit of a meltdown. And I remember my mum sort of saying like, oh, well, maybe go into teaching, or, do something that you think is going to, guarantee you money and stuff like that. And then when I spoke to this client, he was like, no, just go, you might as well try. And then it's the best thing I've ever done. It's like, it's just flourished really, which is brilliant. I think it's taken a long time to sort of work on yourself. Like I try and practice that daily, like self-awareness and self-improvement, and try and I don't know, try and get a bit more belief in myself, which I know we all struggle with. That's just part of being human, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it seems to be working. And I'm 5 years, well, it's coming up to 6 years now of working for myself, and it feels like it's only the beginning, which is great as well. I feel like I'm only just finding my feet of actually, the type of graphic design work that I like doing and the reasons why and stuff like that. So, yeah, it still feels early days, even though I'm, 36 now.
Yeah, I think it takes a little while to kind of find your feet when you become self-employed. And by the sounds of it, like your client giving you that little nudge, sometimes you do just have to try and go, well, fuck it. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You have to find a full-time job. Like,
yeah, exactly. And that was the thing. I sort of just thought, well, you might as well give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, like you say, go and get a job, like somewhere. At least you can say you've tried.
yeah.
And yeah, I wouldn't want to do anything else, which is a very fortunate position to be in as well. But yeah, no, it's great. Really, I'm happy where I am, basically, which is good.
Yeah, that's good. And I think like once you've been freelance or worked like you'd have done previously with a partner, like it's quite hard to go back into full-time employment in an agency sense. Like I tried it for like 3 months and was like, oh, bloody Nora, what am I doing? And actually like being freelance is, all right, it's a wild roller coaster because you get times where you're dead quiet, then you get times where you could split yourself into 4, but
yeah,
that's the whole beauty of it, isn't it?
Massively, hugely. I think that was, again, that pull towards like, actually, I don't know if I'm suited, because I was so out of it for so long, as in working for myself for like 10 years or whatever. It was like, oh, can I do that? Can I go and work for somebody else? Or I don't know if that's suited for me anymore. Obviously, if you had to, fine, but I really want to give it a good shot first. And yeah, like you say, it is tough being a freelancer, because like you do have to motivate yourself to get out there and put yourself in positions that you probably don't really want to do. You've got to do your accounting, you've got to do your marketing, you've got to, no one's giving you all this stuff on a plate, but the rewards of it are, they're nothing really compares to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I find like it's hard trying to balance all of the plates of marketing and like accounting and everything else. Like I farm my accounting in and out because I'm like, my brain doesn't work like that. Let's just pay someone else to do that.
Yeah,
and
same.
like you just hit that. Yes, you've got to balance everything, but now we're so lucky we get to schedule lots of things. Like on social media, you can schedule everything. You can like get my friend's got a booking calendar that you can book her through. Like there's lots of other things that you can do to help ease off some of those spinning plates.
Yeah, definitely. No, I completely agree. And I guess you only really know those things when you get into it and you start finding these tools and stuff to use. Yeah, so it is, you've got to navigate your own sort of ship in a way, haven't you?
Yeah.
But like I said, the rewards of it are undeniable. You can't, like, I just, if I want to take the morning off for whatever reason, I can just go and do that, which is, you just can't do that in any other situation. And it is one of those feast or famine situations sometimes. And I just think, again, that seems to be the life of a freelancer. Like you might have a month where you've not really got much in at all. But then again, you can actually focus your attention then on, more of your marketing stuff or updating your website or whatever. So you've then, in some ways, you offset it by thinking that this free time I can now put back into the business, which is always useful and always needed, really. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, and I think that downtime as well, as much as you think with the amount of years that you being freelance that you'll get used to it, you never do. However, like spending that time I try and see family, try and see friends. I started the podcast, like trying to just do stuff and learn new skills outside of my comfort zone just helps massively. And I think it just keeps your mind occupied, getting outside, going for big hikes with the dog, or, you know, lots of things like that. Because then there'll come a point where I'm too damn tired to do anything, and like can barely even get the hoover around the house after a week at work, you know?
Yeah, completely agree. It's funny because I go and visit my grandma and granddad, and I'll do it like at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday or something, and they always go, "Do you not? Are you never working?" Like, and I'm like, "No, I do. I just decide when I work," which is, you know, great.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're in that mindset of, you know, you never seem to be doing any work, you. I'm like, well, I am, but when I pick and choose to do it.
And I think that's healthy, putting in the boundaries as well of like when you want to work. That's the beauty of being freelance. And excuse me, I like having these like life admin days. So like next week I've got 2 days. I've got like my car's in for a service, then I've got like a doctor's appointment. So I'm like, I've just set them all out as like admin days. And I'm like, right, okay, cool. They've got to be done. And I can't do them on the weekend because they're shut. So, you know.
I love that. That's amazing, because I do something similar. Like I use like a schedule thing, and I will actually put in, I have like all my client projects where I write in when I'm doing them on certain days, but I will do the same for life admin stuff. Like that gets put on as a job.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's, like you say, I'm not saving it for the evening or on my Saturday. It's like, no, that's going in on a Thursday afternoon, and it's slotted in as a meeting, even though it's, you know, taking the car like for its MOT or something, like you say.
Yeah.
Just that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perks.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've just started to put in like proper boundaries with times that I'm online and other things, like doing a kind of out of office thing that I actually saw somebody who I've interviewed do, and I was like, this is incredible, because it tells everybody where you can find to book me or what have you. But then it basically says I'm online between like 9 and 5:30, I think I put, or 5 o'clock. So like they don't, if they email me at 5:10, they probably will get a reply the next day. So it takes the urgency out of it, because at the end of the day, I'm not saving lives. I'm making stuff look pretty. And it's, you know, I don't want to be needed in the time that I'm spending with my husband, because he's been working all day as well. You know, we want that time together undisturbed.
Yeah, completely. And that reminds me of a time, actually, probably early on when I'd just started off on my own. And it was a new client, and I remember it was my birthday, and it was at like 6:30 at night, and he was asking me like, oh, can you get this, I don't know, this design done for social media? I need it doing like ASAP sort of thing. I made the fatal error of like replying, and I'll learn quickly, no, right, there's these unspoken boundaries really that, you know, you're not getting a reply basically after between 9 and 5 sort of thing. Like after that, that's my time. And I remember him ringing me on a Saturday morning when I was out on my coffee, and I had to shut the client relationship down because it just wasn't working. And then he wouldn't pay me for the work that I did either. So it was a double whammy. I was like, right, that's not okay.
No,
but you only, you know, you go through these things and you use these experiences to then not let that happen again.
Yeah.
It's a hard lesson sometimes, but then you recognise it and you think, right, well, okay, what am I going to do next time then so that this doesn't happen? And like you're saying with, you know, putting these certain hours in that you're only available from, perfect. That's how it should be. That's your boundaries. But you'll have only probably learnt that through having, you know, people message you or you reply at silly o'clock, and then that's expected then, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think then it puts the expectation on myself to be like always available, and actually that does me no good, because then I burn out and then I'm ill and all sorts of other shit. And I think like actually I love my job, but it isn't worth me getting really worried and really stressed out. There's no, like, you know, people can wait. Nothing's that incredibly urgent that it can't wait until 9 a.m. the next morning. Or even if I feel like I should reply to it there and then, I can reply, but schedule it out to go out at 9 a.m. the next morning.
Yeah.
So I've kind of done my part. It's taken the weight off my shoulders if I feel like it. But it's taken me, I don't know how long I've been freelance, 12 years to do that. And like, you know, and I'm sat here also thinking about a work phone, you know, because I've got a lovely network of work friends who I absolutely love. But there's sometimes that I don't want to talk about work on a Saturday. Like, I'm not bothered.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. And it's funny, isn't it? Because, like, I think, especially for freelancers in the creative world as such, you're expected to, you know, absolutely love what you do, which is fine, but you're expected almost like that becomes who you are, and that you want to talk about that all the time. Or because I went to a talk last night in Manchester with Elizabeth Gilbert, and she was talking all about how this pursuit of pursuit of purpose, and this idea that we've all been sold, that you have to really find what it is that you want to do, this entire like passionate thing. And if you don't find it, then, and you don't monetize it either, then you've basically failed at life. And how far away from that it is. Like, the truth is just, you know, insane. And it's okay for everything to just be ordinary, and like, you just enjoy the one thing that you're working on or doing at that time, and then move on to the next thing. It doesn't have to be this all-consuming, like, oh, you have to be super passionate, really, like, if you don't find that, then you've missed out on your one and only true gift that you've got. It's like, that's just bullshit, basically. That's just not truth.
Yeah. And I think as creatives, we try a lot of different things, and like yourself with your design work, and then your little crafty shop on the side, and then we try lots of different things. And actually, our journey isn't linear. I don't believe anybody's is, but I think it's such an old way of thinking that we have to climb the corporate ladder, and be incredibly passionate about everything all the time. Like, to me, that's just like burnout. It's screaming it.
Yeah, of course it is. Like that whole, like, you know, be a master of this and like become an absolute expert in this. But what if I don't want to do that? Or I like doodling like album covers, but then I also like reading about plants, and then I also want to go on a run, and I'm interested in, you know, some vegetarian meal that I want to make. Like, these are all the joyous little things that we all like want to take little bits of.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, you know, focus on one whole thing. I think it also takes away that pressure as well, almost, that, you know, you have to dive into one certain area, which it's a funny one, especially for, again, the freelance world almost, is that you're expected to become this absolute expert in your field, which, you know, you might absolutely enjoy it, and you're going to know your stuff, but I don't know, it's not the be all and end all.
No, and actually I think there's something nice about finding little things that you're quite passionate about, and having a collection of little things that you're enjoying. And yes, you might be very, very good. Like, for me, I know I'm good at doing my e-com styling. It's boring and for other people, but I enjoy it. But that's not the only thing that I'm good at. I'm also good at interiors and propping and, you know, composition and stuff. So if I hone in on one thing, I'm going to miss out the joy on all the others as well. Like, it doesn't make sense, does it?
No, not at all. And I think that's where this whole, like, at the moment, I've been trying to figure out what it is about my job that I actually really enjoy doing. And I've been working with a coach, and she's really helped me to nail down sort of, you know, mission, vision, values, that kind of stuff. But it's more deeper than that. And I feel like what it is that it's this whole idea of curiosity, and lends itself to this idea of trying as many things as you possibly can and see where that takes you. And I've always had this sort of mindset of like, well, you kind of don't know until you try. Like, you might be absolutely amazing at something. Like, I think that, like, I've never done rock climbing. I could be bloody brilliant at it. Like, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. So it's like, all right, okay, maybe I'll go and do that. Just see. Like, time's never wasted from doing that. And I think sometimes we tend to just stick to what we know, thinking it's the safest bet, when actually you're missing out on so many things that you could love to do. And I think that whole idea of curiosity really, I don't know, something in me goes like, yeah, it's that, like, oh, it's like a little nudge or a little whisper that like speaks to you and goes like, oh, what about that? Or, oh, have you tried that? Or I don't know, yeah. And I think that's where design-wise for me it pulls in, because I enjoy creating stuff that makes you actually that gives you, like, sort of turns your head and makes you question, oh, maybe that's for me. What's this? Let's have a look at it. And it creates a whole host of things, like in terms of, say, because I do a lot of work for theatres, so if it's a play for someone, that if they get that little curious spark in them that goes, oh, that sounds really interesting, right, let's go and watch that, then they'll invite the friends along and the family, and it becomes a whole human interaction. So it's not just that, like, one little moment of seeing just for yourself. It's actually, it extends larger than that, and I think it's a foundational, like, human thing that we're all in it together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely. And I think sometimes the killer of curiosity is fear.
Oh, big time.
Fear of the unknown. And you go like, and then maybe it's imposter syndrome as well. And you go, I'm similar to you. I like to try lots of different things. And like, for me, it's maybe going to a different craft evening, or it's going to like a different fitness class or something like that. And I think, like, you're right, the curiosity, you almost have to swallow the fear down of like the intimidation of trying something new. And then the curiosity is like, oh yeah, actually I tried that. And that's like you say, rock climbing, you might be really good at it, but you've never tried.
Yeah. So you don't know. You could be like a champion at it and you have no idea. Like, and that's like so freeing. And the thought of that is like, and it removes that perfection side of it as well, because you realise that, you are probably going to be terrible to begin with. But if it sparks something in you, you think, whoa, this is interesting, I really like this. And then you just nudge your way, keep going and keep going. And if you do that with tons of stuff, it's becomes a bit more of a joyful way of living, doesn't it?
Yeah, you've just reminded me of, I saw something on socials this week about a runner. Well, she started running. She went and did the London Marathon. I think she pulled like a 4.5 hour time, which is really amazing anyway to do your first marathon. And she's just completed her like 5th or 6th London Marathon, and she's now in the elite runners. She was like 20th across the line. And that's just because she was like, I'm just going to try it.
Yeah, amazing.
And just fell in love with it.
You wouldn't have known that otherwise. And especially if you'd just gone like, oh no, I'm not going to be any good, I'm not going to bother. Like, no, go for it. Because you actually genuinely don't know. And that's like super exciting.
Yeah, it just takes that fear away. And I think like there's so much to be curious about in this world. And especially as a creative, I think sometimes we can lose curiosity when we're in the mundane of like trying to find work, or we're working for doing a job that's okay, but it's not the most creative. And you kind of lose that creativity in the mundane, I guess. And actually there's so much creative stuff, even in your day-to-day, little glimmers of things. And, it's really interesting.
It is really interesting. And I think as well, like that whole like curiosity killed the cat thing, which is complete nonsense. Because if you think about it in relation to fear, that is, and like it's almost saying that we've got this upper limit that you can only go so far. It's putting these boundaries in ourselves, but not like as in like again, yeah, the fear factor really, isn't it, in a way, and stopping you from, and that's like almost telling you like, oh, don't go and follow these little signs because you don't know what's going to happen if you do. You know, it's like, what is going to happen? You don't know what's going to happen, so go for it. You might as
And like
well.
half the time, the worst case is that you don't like something and you go, well, I tried that, didn't like it.
Yeah,
Cool.
don't like it.
Don't have to do it again.
Yeah,
Don't matter.
exactly. No, exactly. No, I really find it quite a freeing thought, and especially getting away from that whole perfection side of thing. I think it just opens them doors to be like, you know, you can just try it, and it removes any sort of, because I used to say it proudly, I'm a perfectionist, and now I don't say it proudly because I know that it's me stopping myself from ever producing things and putting it out there. And again, going back to the Elizabeth Gilbert thing, she says this thing of like, basically good enough is good enough. So, you know, put it out there and then move on to the next thing. And then, right, put that out there, move on to the next thing. And I think that's because sometimes, well, a lot of the times you do get stuck with that sort of blank page fear, don't you? It's like having a canvas and you're like, I have no idea where to start. Just do it.
Yeah.
And see what happens. And then once you've sort of, you'll probably naturally feel that you've had enough of it. And then it's like, right, let's just put that there and go on to the next thing.
Yeah. And I think you can still learn from everything that you try as well. There's something to be learned in everything. And there's skills to be born out of trying stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes, that's not like the darker side of curiosity, but it is an element that you might uncover stuff that you might not have wanted to find out, or, you know, but actually that then opens you up to the pathway that you are meant to go on. So, like you say, it's lessons learned regardless, which is all valuable, you know, information for us. So yeah, curiosity is the thing, definitely the thing.
Yeah. I saw a reel of yours that said about you pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So how do you find the energy to do that? Because I think sometimes I get stuck in my comfort zone because I'm maybe a bit lethargic, maybe a little bit bored.
Yes. I probably don't do it as often as I should, but when I have those little spare of the moment things of, oh, this is scary, fuck it, I'll just do it. I'm going to do it, or I'm going to ask to do something, or I'm just going to send that thing. Oh, I'm just going to like post this. And I just try and act on that little impulse that comes along. It doesn't happen that often, but when it does, that's when I just have to do it. And then afterwards, I'm like, well, the world didn't end, so it's fine. Like at the moment, I've been doing a bit of dancing at my desk, sort of thing, and that is purely to get myself out of my comfort zone of worrying what I actually look like on a phone screen, and getting rid of that judgment of what I think other people will think, just purely to get myself out of that and to recognise that who cares? Like, nobody cares. And it really doesn't matter. It's nothing's going to happen from it, but it will just help me to become a bit more free to express whatever it is that I might want to express one day.
Yeah, I was doing little outfit videos for like a few days and just doing like a little spin on my like private Instagram. And then I actually ended up using it on like my LinkedIn, and somebody was like, oh, you've got like the Lucy and Yak like sun and moon dungarees on the eclipse or something. There was some solar thing. And they were like, was that intentional? And I was like, oh God, no, I did not read that far into it. Like I was just having a little dance on the balcony in my Lucy and Yaks, you know. But I think you're right. People don't genuinely, they really don't care. As long as you look like as long as you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself, I really don't think people think too deeply in things like that.
No, no, I don't think they do. I think, well, we're all our own main characters, aren't we, really? And everyone else is just the side people. Um, and regardless of that, anyway, I think if we can try and I just think it'd be really helpful for everyone to just not give as much of a crap what other people think, because you're just putting your own boundaries up, your own little prison walls, really. If you then basically what someone else thinks isn't my business. And I heard that phrase like a while ago, like a long time ago even. I used to be like, what do you mean? What does that even mean? But I'm getting it. Like, it really doesn't, like, what anyone says or thinks has nothing to do with me at all.
Yeah.
And again, that's a really freeing thought.
Do you think that's a mid-30s thing? Because I'm the same age as you, and I hit 36 and just went, I think I maybe actually hit a little bit younger than that and just went, I don't give a shit.
I know. I think it might be. Because I definitely wasn't like this in my 20s.
No, same.
I cared a lot about what people thought. And even the idea of thinking like, oh no, you look dead cringy, or like, oh, as if you do that. Like now I've pushed myself to do that stuff to get away from this idea of caring too much.
Yeah.
What other people might or might not think. Because like I say, it just doesn't matter.
No, because like if they're talking about you in like, oh, what's Charlotte wearing today? Like, who gives a fucking shit?
But we really do though, don't we? Like, and we'll walk around. I think it's a very isolating world to be in sometimes, because I notice sometimes when I walk around like the park, there's a park near me, and in the mornings, generally morning people tend to be a lot happier than if you go for a walk in the evening. I think the day has sort of, suppressed everybody and nobody wants to talk to anyone. But in the morning, most people are generally like, good morning, you're all right, yeah. But then you'll get the odd person that you say morning to and they won't even look at you. And I always think, that's fine, that's okay. Like, because I know that they're in their own little world, their own little bubble, which has nothing to do with me, but I'll still reflect how I want to be to the outside world.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, like I say, we can just get so caught up in our own little brains, really.
Yeah. And I think you're so right with you're your own main character, aren't you? Like, you've just hit the nail on the head there. And I think as well, when in my 20s, I cared so much about what people thought about me, even probably when I was 30, 31. I'm just looking at like my wedding picture now. We got married when when I was 30 and my other half was 31. And I wasn't as tattooed because I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to look like in my wedding dress with half a sleeve or whatever. I mean, like, I look great like in my wedding dress on the day, but you do think like, oh, what are people going to think about me? And I remember going dress shopping and being like, oh, everyone's going to see me from the back. So what does the dress look like from the back? Everyone saw me from the back for like three seconds while I walked down the aisle. Like, really, and people do not give a shit because they're also like looking at my other half was crying. He's a 6'3" skinhead who was crying. There's like, they're looking at other people in the room and the reactions. Yeah. They're not, only you really care about what you think about what other people think of you, and actually you should let that go and just be like, oh, I'm free. I'm so free.
So free. There's literally, that's the only limitations, is exactly what we think, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. And like,
no, go on.
Carry on. I was at this wedding at the weekend and my hair's all natural now, so it's salt and pepper grey.
Yeah, amazing.
And this lady was late 50s and she was like, oh my God, your hair looks amazing. And I was like, oh, thanks. Like, just stopped giving a shit about beauty standards that, I just don't care anymore. I don't want to look youthful when I'm like not. And she was like, no, but you look young because you've left it as it is. And she said, when I started to not dye mine, and everyone was going like, what are you doing? You look so old. She looked incredible for her age. I wouldn't have pitched her at that age. And her hair was like white, looked amazing. And she was like, everybody just thought I was doing the wrong thing. And I was like, that's other people's perceptions of what you should be doing are being pushed onto you. And actually, you've just got to do what you want.
Yeah, completely. And I guess that's almost like, I think they say, don't they, it's a bit like a reflection of your own thought, like your own insecurities, or like, so people that were probably saying that to her, like, oh, you know, why are you doing that? Oh, I wouldn't do that. It's because they couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And they didn't feel confident enough to do that themselves.
Yeah.
Which again, it's all self-awareness and self, you know, improvement, or like working on yourself is probably the number one thing that each one of us should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
massively. Let's go back to your design stuff. I love your fonts that you do. How did you make those? Where did the concept come from to make your own font like that?
I think I just sort of, like, I love, like, I know it's a bit cheesy, but like the motivational quote stuff, like those are like just easy and good for me to, you know, pick something from those and design it. And I use a program called Procreate, and I just illustrate them on my iPad. Well, actually, I generally start off in my sketchbook first with pencil and a rubber, because you just can't beat that. Like, it might sound a bit old-fashioned, but that's the way that I like to do things. And then reluctantly, I'll pick up the iPad and then redraw it in that style. But my preference is pencil and paper. And then, yeah, I just sort of, I love all that bubbly, so that bubbly, bright, bold, retro, sweet vibe kind of thing. That's just, it just makes me feel happy when I'm doing it. And I find it, the good thing is I find it easy to do as well. And I think that was something that I used to always kind of get a bit confused with, I suppose, when I was younger. This idea of, because I did find illustrating easy, and I couldn't quite understand that other people didn't find it easy, if you know what I mean. So like, part of me was a bit, again, probably back to that perfection thing in a way, is like, well, I find it really easy, so is it even that good, or like whatever? But I now don't think of it that way. I find it more of like a meditative way of doing. Like, if I know that I'm feeling a bit anxious or something, I'll be like, right, it's time to get the iPad out and start doing some drawing. And generally, whatever quote comes out is probably the mood that I'm in. So you'll probably find that, depending on what it says, was how I was feeling at the time. But actually, it's translated quite well, because I've then been putting those, like my little lettering pieces, into art prints, but also into cards and stuff, because they lend themselves well to greeting cards. And there's one on a website that sells cards from like independent creators. And there's one every Galentine's Day that seems to do really, really well. And it was like a huge quote about like, be your amazing self. Like, and I just love the idea that, I think it's sold like 1,000 or something like that of them, that 1,000 women or men or whatever have given that card to somebody that they love, to just like make them feel a bit happier, and like to, you know, reinforce these nice positive things about them. I think that's quite a cool little bonus to what I do.
That really is really nice. And you also, it says on your Instagram that you have some cards in Tesco, which is so cool.
It is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was one of those little pinch me moments. I actually got the email from the company, and I thought it was a joke to begin with. You know, when you get one of those like spam emails, and I was like, yeah, right, whatever. And then I kind of like looked into it, and I was like, hold on a minute, this looks real. I was like, okay. And so I put forward a bunch of stuff, because they'd approached me for it as part of like this introducing artist range. put them forward, and then they were happy with them and got accepted, and they're now in Tesco, which is amazing. But what was funny was some of the things that they'd found from they must have found it from my Instagram profile, was a couple of posts from, a couple of years ago, really, like an illustration that I'd done, not thought anything of it. Might have even been 2 or 3 years ago that they'd gone that far down, and they were like, we really like this one. Like, can we make this into a card? So it goes to show that actually, just put your work out there and leave it there. Don't, if say like a post or something on Instagram's not going that great or anything, just still leave it there, because you literally don't know if that could be a moment that then ends you up getting some cards in Tesco. Like, you don't know. So do the work, put it out there, and then move on to the next thing and let the universe decide if there's anything with it.
Yeah, that's great. That's so good. I bet when you were drawing that, you weren't thinking, oh, well, that'll be in Tesco in like 3 years' time.
Nope, not at all. Not a clue. So yeah, that was a pretty surreal one. And I remember getting the email saying that they were launching in January at the start of this year. And when they did, my best friend, because I was in Amsterdam at the time, she went all the way to like the big Tesco and like found them and like got the lady in the shop to take a picture of them with her. Like, oh, I know, super cute. So it is nice. It's nice to have people that are like proud of you as well.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so like every day, like they've not had to search out a brand that's got your designs on it. It's like literally in store, very physical. They can pick it up. It's very tangible.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is a very surreal thing. So I guess in some ways my advice for people who want to get their art out there and stuff is just keep drawing and just keep posting and just keep doing it and putting it out there, because you don't know. Like, I had no intentions or even ideas that would have been an opportunity for me, and it came to my doorstep without me having to do anything. But I obviously put the work in there and let it out there, and then that's the result that came from it. So you just don't know.
No, you're so right. You just don't know. And like, you never know what's around the corner. And I think as long as you're quite positive about stuff and just kind of, I'm not saying we can't have negative Nelly days, because I think we all do, or times, but as long as you're like almost radiating happiness. Is that a Quentin Blake picture? Where is that radiating happiness and it's a sun? Or am I making that up?
No, I'm just ringing a bell. Yeah.
But I feel like whatever you put out, you get back, don't you, from the universe? And I think if you're putting out happiness and like positivity and like just general putting out like designs like that you enjoy, somebody else will also enjoy them, and it comes back round.
Yeah, it really does. And I completely agree with that. And I think also it's just, again, it's a really freeing way to live your life. If you just, stop thinking what other people think, because it really doesn't matter and it's nothing to do with you. And then B, just keep having that curiosity to try new things and putting things out there and seeing where it takes you, but also don't have that ownership over it almost. Don't attach yourself to that thing and let it go, and then see what comes of it, but without any expectation. And like I say, I think that with the Tesco thing, I had zero idea about that, with zero expectation, and that came to my door. And it wouldn't have happened if I'd not just let go of those pieces and put them out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, sounds like the dream. I've got a note on my diary that says, not diary, my notepad, that says British naturism.
Yes.
Tell me more.
So that's an interesting one. And again, back to the curiosity thing, I think that's where I absolutely love working with these guys, because I design their quarterly magazine. And even though I've never done naturism myself, like, I can understand how it seems to be a really freeing thing for people. And it's, again, that little like, oh, I wonder what would like happen if I tried that. I wonder what that would feel like, kind of thing. And I love that idea because they look like they're having a bloody bee now, to be honest. They really do. I get the photos through every quarter, and they get up to all sorts of stuff, and they're having an absolute whale of a time, not giving a shit what other people think, and just doing what they want to do. And it's a really like joyful thing to work on, even though for me, I'd be like, I have been asked if I wanted to go, I think it was Alton Towers that they go to, which I just think it would be better with clothes, personally.
Yeah.
But they absolutely love it. And, you know, it's really cool because I don't have any judgment about that. It's just something personal that I probably wouldn't, you know, oh, I don't know, maybe I would. Again, you don't know, do you? One day I could be completely into that. Who knows? And that's the joy of it. But yeah, it's a cool one to do because I can see how they're evolving as well as, you know, I think they've been, is it 60 years or something like that? We're just literally coming up to the magazine. Yeah, 60 years this next magazine edition is going to be. And the changes that have been made and the whole body positivity thing has been really embraced, and more younger people are getting involved. And again, it goes back to that curiosity thing of like people wanting to try stuff that they might, you know, not ever have thought of doing. But yeah, it is an interesting one. Every few months, my computer, you probably don't want to see what's on my computer every quarter. But no, it's a good one.
That's really funny.
Yeah, I've seen it all. I've seen it all plenty of times. Plenty of times. And yeah, I'm just used to it now.
Yeah. What a project that they're like sent you some pictures of them at Alton Towers, just like, yeah, can you stick this in the magazine?
Oh yeah, love it. Water parks, that's another one. Absolutely love water parks. But they literally look like they're having the best time. It looks complete freedom, to be honest. Yeah. Don't think it's for me. But like I said, who knows? Maybe one day.
Who knows? Give it a few years, it might be you on the front page.
On the front page. Oh, don't.
So, Jen, I've got one last question for you, and you can answer it however you see fit. But what inspires you?
Oh, it's a tough one, that, isn't it? Because there's so many things that inspire me. And I think as well, things that maybe have inspired me when I was younger maybe don't inspire me as much as when as we've progressed, like as we've got older. Because I think at the moment, things that inspire me more is the whole, living in the moment type thing. And I'm very conscious about the fact that life is very short. And I was only speaking about it today, actually, and how that sort of phrase is seen as a cliche and a bit cheesy, but it's the truest thing that could be said. And I just think instead of, I don't know, what inspires me about it is that, again, that freedom really is that people that can just decide to go off and do their own things and try and are willing to try things, and the world in its entirety really is an inspiring thing, isn't it? Yeah, I guess just taking inspiration from anywhere and everywhere. And I think that's the joy of it. There's not like one thing that really ticks the boxes. It's a bit of everything. I know that sounds like a really vague answer, but it's difficult to nail down to one specific thing. I think it's just living in the moment and finding inspiration from anything that pops up in the day.
Yeah, I'm with you. I find stuff in all over, and I'll be like, oh, I love that person's outfit, or it'll be like I've seen, I don't know, a pattern on a dog, or like nature, or something else, or I'll hear something inspiring or
Mm-hmm.
see a piece of art or like read a really good book or, you
Yeah.
know, there's a lot to be inspired by if you open your eyes and ears.
Exactly. Yeah, completely. Because we do really get caught up in our own little brains. And that's when I think, you know, you do tend to get stuck. Well, I do. And I think trying new things and doing stuff that you wouldn't normally do is one good way of getting yourself out of that little insular mindset that we can all do.
Yeah. I'm there with you, girl. There with you. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed chatting to you tonight and getting to hear about your career and the fact that your cards are in Tesco is incredible. And it's so nice to chat to another creative.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been really good. It has literally been like a brew and a chat.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, follow, and share as it really helps this little podcast out. And if you have found value in the podcast and you have the means to, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. This will help keep the podcast going. Join me next week for another fantastic guest. Bye!